Close up, me and you. It brings us close. Brought to you by
Close Up.
Namaste and thank you very much for being with us. You are tuned to the right station indeed. We are Image FM 97.9. We play music off your life 24 hours a day and night if you please. It is a Monday evening. It's a little over 8 p.m. and that just means it's time for your very own show. It's called Close Up Me and You, brought to you by Close Up, of course. My name is Chirag Bangdel and I welcome you to the show. Well, if you know the format of the show, this is one show where I take your calls and we talk on different issues. There's also one show where I bring in amazing guests. Tonight we have with us some wonderful people. A very special guest with me, a celebrated writer, a hero in our country, if I may, Mr. Samrat Upadhyay. Samrat, this is such an honor to have you in a studio this evening.
It's a pleasure.
So, we're meeting for the first time.
Yes.
And we owe this introduction and the meeting to our friend, Mr. Jivan Acharya.
Yes.
So it was a great party, right?
It was, we had fun. I had so much fun. You brought great music. We danced.
Yes, we did. And free-flowing drinks and good food. And a lot of good music.
Yes,
and Samrat Dai was there with his band. We'll get to that. We also have with us three very beautiful ladies all the way from the United States, students of Mr. Samrat Upadhyay. They would be Soleil, Gianni, and Lucy. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So, everybody knows who you are, Samrat Dai, and for everybody who's tuning in from the United States of America, I believe you're going to share this on your college website. If I'm not mistaken.
We're going to try. We're going to put it up somewhere.
So I'm going to call Mr. Samrat Upadhyay Samrat Dai because Dai is brother, and
yes,
and we're going to use that term. It'd be
brother artist.
Yes. If I just called him Mr. Upadhyay, that would sound so cool. He is the professor of creative writing and has previously served as the director of the creative writing program at Indiana University. And we all know that he's the author of the very, very famous book, Arresting God in Kathmandu, that got published in 2001. Also, The Guru of Love, 2003. The Royal Ghost, that was 2006. And Buddha's Orphans, 2010. And the last book that he wrote was the City Sun. So
no, there's another book after that, Mad Country, that came out last year.
Oh yes, forgive me. Yeah. That was last year, right?
No problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to talk about the first book, because I was younger then, and I remember hearing about you for the first time then, and I rushed the bookstore to buy the book, and I went through the stories. But could you still talk about the experience then and winning the very famous award?
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting to publish Arresting God in Kathmandu because in the US, normally first-time authors publish novels. Publishers don't like publishing short story collections from first-time authors because they're unknown quantities, So some of these stories had been published in journals. I had actually written 2 novels that I had been trying to market to no avail. Just a lot of rejections. And finally, one of the stories from Arresting God in Kathmandu, The Good Shopkeeper, got published in the Best American Short Stories in 1999, selected by Amy Tan, which just thrilled me to no end. And then the publisher contacted me and said, do you want to publish it? The publicity that the book got was, just blew my mind away. It was more than anything that, a beginning writer, can hope for.
And we got us the Whiting Award.
Yes, it got the Whiting Award, which was a substantial amount of money. And, I had
the honor too. It was huge.
It is considered a really significant award. So, so a lot of writers, a lot of writers who have gone on to publish, good books have won it. So, so it was quite something.
Yes. And Soleil, Gianni, and Lucy, you've been here in Nepal for the first time. Is it the first time, if I may ask?
Yes, it is.
So how's the experience been so far?
It's been incredible. Samrat has been a wonderful guide and teacher for us, and we've had the opportunity to explore Kathmandu and go to Pokhara as well, which is also beautiful.
Soleil, what have you been doing? Have you been doing a lot of fun things?
We've also we've been going to some of the wedding ceremonies. So we got to witness some of the rituals. And then we also got to meet a lot of Samrat's family, which was a treat too.
Okay. And Gianni, did you know that Mr. Upadhyay was this big in the country? He's a rock star in Nepal.
I think one of the things that's really fun about being at a university is that you kind of have to be outside the university to realize how important your professors are. It was an experience I had also in college where afterwards I would realize that the people I had studied with were actually quite famous and formidable in their in their programs. And I think coming to Nepal has kind of shown us that. I mean, just yesterday we were at Kathmandu Guest Hotel. No, Guest House, sorry. Yeah. Kathmandu Guest House for like Samrat got a route named after him, you know? And so we got to watch that and see kind of this, it's been really, I don't want to say surprising, but really lovely to see the speeches that people make about him and how much his work means to them. It's really touching.
They're going to tease me, for the next few months about all of this. I can see that already.
But then we also had a singing session. You sang a song for the audience in the wedding. I mean, Changbai. That was
a lot of fun. Yeah.
So I mean, I should have shot a video and posted on Facebook. I would probably.
Oh no, thank you.
Okay. Glad you forgot.
But how is he as a teacher?
Of singing, perhaps not the best, but of creative writing, Samrat's absolutely excellent.
Yeah, so Samrat is a good enough teacher that I asked him to be my thesis advisor, which means that he and I are working one-on-one on a short story collection project. I'd say that Samrat's style overall is pretty hands-off in that he lets us kind of decide which way the conversation's going to go and what it is that we're interested in, and but when he wants to, he can really push us. So we took a novel writing workshop with him where he kind of told us, like, day one, you're going to be writing either 60 to 100 pages in the next 3 months. And, like, that's what you need to do just to pass. So, he can be tough when he wants to, but always from a place of, I think, love. So.
Oh, that's
that's so beautifully put.
You're not supposed to hear all that stuff.
That's so beautifully put. If you're just tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, we are Image FM 97.9. This hour is all about great conversation tonight. We call this Close Up Me and You. Tonight I have with us the very famous author, Mr. Samrat Upadhyay. We also have with us students of Mr. Upadhyay, Soleil, Gianni, and Lucy. We'll go for a very short commercial break. We'll see you right after this.
Close Up Me and You. It brings us close. Brought to you by
Close Up.
If you just tuned in, we are Image FM 97.9, the only station that plays the music of your life 24 hours a day and night. And this hour is all about excellent English music. And there's also one show where I take in your calls. But tonight, we're doing something else. We're doing something really, really special because we have with us 4 amazing people. A big, wonderful writer, author, Mr. Samrat Upadhyay. I've been a big fan of his writing for a very long time. Also in the house, we have with us Soleil, Gianni, and Lucy, all the way from the United States, students of Mr. Upadhyay. And we'll now talk about your writing, if I may, Mr. Upadhyay. What's your writing process like?
Well, it varies by the project, but I usually spend a considerable amount of time every day writing. So, and I tell this to a lot of my students, that volume is also important. You have to write enough so that then you can distill that into something quality, something that is of quality. And I also throw away a lot of stuff. So I'm writing a novel right now that's big. I've thrown away a few hundred pages already.
Wow.
But I'm not the only one. I mean, a lot of writers do it. So it's not an unusual process. When I was writing Buddha's Orphans, I started writing by hand, which I've enjoyed greatly. So my first draft is always by hand. So I have a special couch at my house where, I just sit and just, put my pen on paper. And so it goes through one editing process by the time I'm already,
feeding it to the computer,
typing it.
Yeah.
In terms of the the genre itself, that also varies. I've written short stories in very short period of time, but also spent months on it. So a lot of the writing depends upon what I'm working on. And if I'm working on a longer project, I kind of push myself to write like a little in the morning, in the afternoon, sometimes even at night, because, I want to get it done. So
that was going to be my question. Yeah. Do you have a specific time when you write, or do you work as an artist? I mean, whenever you're in the mood?
No, not in the mood at all. So I'm not driven purely by mood, although I do have moments of inspiration. Because I think if you're a novelist, you can't just say, well, I'll wait for the mood to strike me, because the mood might not come for the next month. And then what are you going to do, right? Yeah. So I do write every day, so I think, and then the mood follows. Sometimes you're not in the mood, you push yourself to write, and then you get into the mood. I think discipline is hugely important. This is something that I've been talking about quite a great deal now with, in my talks, is that there's a thing about stamina. You do so just like, a swimmer would, so you have to develop the writing muscles, and the more you do it, the more you develop it. So
it's all about exercise, I think. No,
it is.
Besides creativity, of course.
Right, of course.
It's also a lot about exercise. Yes. But we all probably want to hear this. Do you also have this writer's block when you grow cranky? And how is it in the college when do you get this writer's block?
My wife will say yes. I do have writer's block, although I've stopped defining it as such. Because I think the word block in itself, I find quite blocking. So when I say I have a writer's block, then it just seems like everything is impossible. So I don't use the word writer's block. I have good days and bad days, but I'm still writing. Yeah. So there are days when I write more, and then I can use less of it. And then there are days when I write less, and then I can use more of it. I mean, it's really, works that way, right? So I don't think it's really fruitful to talk about writer's block all the time.
Just to make the audience feel good. I mean, there was a lot of young people who wants to write.
But I know people have. I know a lot of aspiring writers have the same thing. I think it just like the point is that you sit and you write. That's what's important. Yeah. So
and throw away. If you want,
and throw away,
if you're not happy with it,
and daydream sometimes is fine. Doodle sometimes.
Yeah, that helps. But I also wanted to ask you about your research, if I may. How much time do you research, or I mean, most of the books are based in Nepal, so did you have to go through a lot of research?
With some books, that the research depends upon the project. So with Buddha's Orphans, I did a lot of research because Buddha's Orphans covers like 5 decades of Nepali history. It goes back to Mahendra's, Sashan, and there were periods. I was quite young, during most of Mahendra's time. So I had to do some research for that. I normally don't research until I finish my first draft, because I need to know what the story is about first. So once I figure out what the story is, once I have like the basic building blocks, then I need to know, then I can figure out, okay, I need to know more about this, I need this aspect, needs more work.
We'll probably talk about Soli's perspective to writing, if I may.
Yes.
Forgive my ignorance and lack of research, if I may, because we're just meeting for the second time.
No, that's okay.
Tell us about the things that you enjoy doing, or what you're studying at the moment.
So I'm in the MFA program, so I'm in grad school. I write poetry. So this is actually the first time I'm working with Samrat, and I will be taking his class next semester. But so good tips, Gianni. I write about. I mean, it's hard. That's a very difficult question of any writer. I have this big project that's about. I'm Filipino. I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I'm writing about the Marcos dictatorship. I'm writing a long series of poems about it.
Wow.
So that's like the big project that I'm doing. But aside from that, I write a lot about immigration, and moving and belonging, how difficult it is to belong when you're in between cultures. And I've also been into Philippine folklore lately, and that's been making their way into my poems.
Beautiful. Could we listen to some of your stuff if do you don't think it's the right time?
Sure. Yeah.
Could we do that, please?
Yeah.
I should have asked her before. I'm sorry. And if everybody's wondering what's happening here, Sole is going through her phone and she's trying to find us a poem, and we are waiting.
Do you mind if we keep going and then we keep talking?
Yeah, sure.
Until I find something.
Okay. So what about you, Gianni? We're trying to make some time for Sole.
Yeah. So I'm also an MFA student. I'm in my third year, and I write fiction primarily, but some nonfiction as well. And my stories are focused. I'm Mexican American, and so my stories are focused on Latinos and families. A lot of times, I'm interested in kind of the conflict that comes up in bilingual families when everybody has a very different relationship to a language, and so to a second language, so particularly Spanish or English. And I think that especially when people move back and forth between a border like Mexico and the U.S., which is right next to each other, that everybody feels very differently about speaking that language. And that can make it difficult for families to get along. And so the collection of short stories that I am working on with Samrat actually kind of looks at those spaces and those points of trouble that people get into. And Samrat has been reading my work, and he recently told me that I do mother-daughter relationships well. So I guess that's maybe like one of my underlying themes that I hadn't planned on writing.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, wonderful. You ready with the poems?
Yes.
Okay.
This one's called Woman Seeking House. With hardwood floors, please, and ceilings so high that when I blow out my candles, the scent of sulfur dioxide never reaches the rafters. I want the rug I scrub in this house to want the roughness of calloused feet. I want room for all the blue pits I will love and lose, a corner for their kibble, which they will pick through for the spot of rib I would have dropped while making dinner. Once, let an angry hurricane slam against the house's walls. Let it know that cracking doesn't mean breaking. Sometimes, let the neighbor's vocal practice be so resonant that I think that I could whisper, "Stop," or "Could you sing that again?" And they would oblige. Let it have known the scent of ilang-ilang, or even better, let its porch be made of ilang-ilang lumber hewn by an artisan who still passes by the neighborhood sometimes, admires his handiwork. Let this house know other houses on the block. Let it have heard of other architectural trends all over the world. Let it be curious to know how it would feel to filter multicolored light through stained glass, or how comforting for one's roof to be held by full beams. Let it hope for Capi's windows.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Very, very nice. Yeah. So, it's very, very visual, like Samrat Dai's writing, I think, no, they?
If you say so, yes.
Yes. We were talking about your writing too during the party. There's a lot of loud music, but we still managed to talk some. And how visual your writing can get, almost like Murakami. I'm sorry, I'm making comparisons, but he's one part. And you also told me that there was a time when you wrote poetry and then you stopped.
Yes, yeah. I used to write. In fact, I started out as a poet. I used to write poetry in Nepali when I was a kid. And then at some point I drifted to English, but I used to write poetry. And even in grad school, when I was doing my MA in creative writing, I used to write poetry. But I think I found my sort of forte in fiction. I found the expansiveness. I didn't have like sort of the distillation of language, that poetry requires, like the kind of distillation that Soleil is.
But having said that, your sentences are very well constructed. There's every sentence is a poem, I think.
Yeah, I think it can be, except when you're writing novels. So there are also sentences that need to be functional, because every sentence, if you focus on every sentence being a line of poetry, you will be an incredibly slow writer, as you know. I mean, you do take some time to compose your poem, right?
Yes.
So when you're writing like a 600-page novel, you have to also think about functionality.
True.
So.
We'll have to talk about Lucy's sense of creativity and her approaches to writing. And what are you up to, Lucy?
So unlike Gianni and Soleil, excuse me, I'm actually still an undergraduate student. I'm in my final year of university studies, where I study not only creative writing, but also political science. And so a lot of my writing, which is predominantly fiction, addresses politics. And I'm particularly interested in intersections between politics and mythology and folklore, which are two of my other areas of study. Like Soleil, I'm interested in raising questions about immigration or other political issues like climate change with my work. But I like to explore it more through perhaps magical realism and science fiction and satire.
Wow.
I think this is the most political group of students I might have brought in all of my years here. So
you've brought along students before.
Yes. So this is part of what the Writer in the World project that I started in.
Oh, wonderful! You need to tell us more about it.
Indiana, about 10 years ago. So the point is, like, maybe something happens to writers when they travel and they encounter new spaces. We don't know exactly what. My creativity sort of flourished once I went to the States, and although I got a lot of my initial education here, it was in the United States that I truly became a writer, and I think the physical space had something to do with it. So that is the whole point. And students come here and, they interact with other writers. They conduct workshops. They even paraglide, which probably has some literary value at some point, right? Maybe Soleil can write like a poem about, soaring in the sky.
You did that?
Yes, we went paragliding.
Excellent.
So, and it's been a wonderful experience for us. It's a very learning experience for me too, because this is one time I get to like reconnect with my country of origin. My parents still live here, and going around with the students, I also get to see things with new eyes, which I'm sure helps my writing also.
All right, and if you just tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Samrat Upadhyay, very famous writer. And we also have with us students of Mr. Upadhyay, Soleil, Gianni, and Lucy. We'll have to go for a very short commercial break. We'll see you right after this.
Close up, me and you. It brings us close. Brought to you by
Close Up.
And welcome back. Let's remind you one more time. We have with us this very celebrated writer, Mr. Samrat Upadhyay. Also in the house, we have with us his students, all the way from the United States of America, Soleil, Gianni, and Lucy. At the risk of sounding really cheesy, I'll have to ask you this. Out of all the 6 books that you've authored, which one satisfies you the most?
That is the toughest question. I don't think I can answer that. Partly because it's, and they do say that, asking an author to choose among, his or her books is like asking a parent to choose among their children. So each book comes with its own flavor. For me, the book I'm currently writing is always the most exciting thing, because I'm in the midst of it. I'm solving problems. I'm living with the characters.
Well, so it's also enjoying the process, I think.
It's enjoying the process.
Because once you're done, you're done.
You're done. So the book that came out last year, Mad Country, given the production system in the US, I actually turned it into my agent somewhere around 2015. So it's already 3 years old, whereas this has the novel I'm writing has a very fresh, tangible quality. Each book has its own function and flavor. So it's a really tough question to answer, Even the books that some books like The City Sun, is one of my favorite books because I took a really lot of risks with that, right? Whereas, people only identify me with Arresting God.
Oh, yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Just the other day, someone said, I really loved Arresting God in Kathmandu. Have you written any books after that? And I'm like, well, I've written 5 books after that. So.
But do you think will you be able to outdo that book? That was a stupid one. But have you probably read his books? So what do you enjoy, if you do, about Mr. Upadhyay's writing? Maybe Lucy can say something and make Samrat Dai feel good.
Sure. I think one thing that really stands out to me about Samrat's fiction is the remarkable clarity of prose, particularly for a reader who is reading about Kathmandu for the first time. Actually, Arresting God in Kathmandu was the first thing at all that I had read about Nepal. And because of the way that Samrat writes these very physical, visceral details of what it is to walk through the streets of Kathmandu and pass through the Durbar squares and
it's
the
almost
sights
magical,
and the
no?
smells.
It
is.
I mean, I'm a Nepali, when I read that, I feel like I'm in a magical land. It's so exotic.
Exactly. I wouldn't use the word exotic, perhaps, just because it is so grounded in day-to-day life in Kathmandu. But it is very visceral. It is very real, even for a reader who's never been there.
What about you, Soleil?
I'll actually take this one.
Okay.
It's Gianni.
All right.
But one of the things that I love about Samrat's writing is actually the humor, which I think comes through really well when he reads. So I love attending the readings of my professors because I feel like they get to be like different people than they have to be when they're teaching. And Samrat's readings, he inhabits little characters. I know he did a little acting before, so he inhabits different characters and he gets these voices going, and they're very funny. And it's an enjoyable listen. You can really lose yourself in what's happening. And it's not like big showy humor. It's subtle. It's in little turns of phrases that are quite beautiful.
And do you plan to come back again? Please say yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And
So
hopefully for a longer time too.
What's the most fun thing in Nepal, Kathmandu? That's Lucy. What's the thing that you enjoy most?
Oh, wow. Well, within the city, it's hard to say because it's been such a whirlwind trip. I think the most fun that I've had personally has been teaching the workshops that we have been doing.
Cool.
But I also had a tremendous amount of fun with other students in Samrat, just exploring, and we got to see the mountains at Pokhara at sunrise, and that was also something that I will never forget.
Jenny, you had fun, I hope.
Yeah, I had fun. So you want to know just a fun thing that I've done?
Fun things that you did. And
well, I'll say one thing that I would like to do if I come back, which is that I enjoy drawing, and I noticed when we would go to some of the different temples that there would be students who were sitting with these big, beautiful drawing pads and just hanging out in the squares and drawing.
Did it happen? Was it on a Saturday morning? Because they have this little movement happening and where the artists, they meet and then they paint, do watercolors and study temples and stuff.
We've been here and every day is
every day? Okay.
So my sense of what day is, what's today? I'm not even sure. That's the level that I'm at. But I have seen it at multiple places. And And it made me feel jealous to just, have that opportunity to sit and kind of be quiet. It's been pretty go, go, go the whole time. So to have that opportunity, I think would be really lovely.
Mm-hmm. You want to say something?
Yeah. So I think my favorite, like I'm still thinking about when we were in the taxi and we were on our way to Patan, Darbar Square, and we just like got out of the taxi, and I was just floored. Like that, I was just wow. Mm-hmm. And that's been the same feeling every time we like look at a new thing. Like we went to Bodhanath and then Pashpuranath. And Bhaktapur was so great. Like just see it, see it so well preserved, and it's an actual city. Like it's not like this, this thing that's away from people. Like people actually go there, and people conduct their business there. People are living their lives around it. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Makes us feel very happy, right?
Yes, of course.
But Dai, getting back to you, do you have any other passions besides writing?
I like listening to music, and
singing.
And I'm a closet singer. So I like to sing in the shower. Let's see what I mean. I'm just a voracious reader. I love traveling.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of traveling in the last 10 years. Been to a lot of countries in Europe, in Asia. Also in Nepal, in India. So so that's something I hope to continue to do. Until I croak.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And besides the next book, what are your other plans there? The new book that's coming up, and do you have other things that you're looking forward to?
Well, I have a daughter who just entered college. She's 18 years old, so getting her successfully through college, seems like I just got a new puppy, and I need to make sure that I need to make sure that he grows into a well-behaved, gentleman, throughout his lifetime. So. And I hope that I can return to Nepal again and again, and find other ways of bridging the two worlds that I have inhabited for the past 30 years. Seems especially important in this era, especially with the president that we have now. I think it's really important that people feel that that there is that we share a common humanity.
True. Very true.
So, yeah.
And if I can cut in, actually, Samrat also just won a big award. Well, I don't know what you call it. He became a distinguished professor at Indiana University. So
congratulations.
That's like the highest level of honor a professor can have at our university.
You can't go bigger than this.
Right. Literally, you can't. There's nowhere else to go from there. Dean, maybe. Yeah. Other than that, yeah.
I could always use a little bit more money.
For any IU admin listening. So yeah, he'll have a big award ceremony next semester,
right,
which we'll be at.
Cool.
Yeah, very excited.
But while we're on air, do you want to say hi to some friends, maybe? Lucy, you want to do that? Shout out. Anybody?
I have a lot of siblings, so I'll say hi to Angelita, Eliades, Sophia, and then Michaela, Tabitha, Jonah, and also my sister Logan and my stepsisters Allie, Emily, and
all right. We get the point.
All my family.
I'm not sure I know that many people. I'll say hi to my mum because she is probably the only one of my family who will listen to this.
Okay.
I'm going to say hi to Ryan because he will probably listen to this, and my mom as well.
Dai, what about you?
Well, I of course my family here in Nepal, and all my Nepali readers, I want to say hi, and also to our MFA community in Bloomington, Indiana. Hello.
Yes. And Sole, Gianni, and Lucy, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and meeting you. This is truly beautiful.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yes, and Samrat, it's such an honor to finally meet you and share this studio with you, and such an honor. And we're very, very proud of you. There, keep shining.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for including Gianni, Soleil, and Lucy in this program. I really appreciate it.
This has been a lot of fun. So we'll have to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back tomorrow, 7 to 8 p.m. with a lot of loud music and fast music. That's TZ Noise. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Have a good night. Bye bye.